Rebecca. We made it. Welcome to Spark TV.
Thank you for having me.
I felt for sure that we were going to have an entire podcast worth of conversations before we hit record. So I am very excited that you've come on the show today and are open to telling your story. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Let's start out by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
I'm Rebecca and I'm the founder of Triiyo. Triiyo is a SaaS platform that supports employees through life events at work.
I love that. I've been through many a life event at work. So, and I'm pretty sure I just cried and left the building many times. So, loving the sound of this. So, you said SaaS platform. Does that mean that there's kind of like a web app, a mobile app, or how do like employees and employers kind of interact on the platform?
Yes, I need to drop the jargon sometimes, don't I? So we're a full technology platform. We sit outside of an organization, and we are a web platform, mobile enabled, so people can access us on their phones. We sit outside because all life events that we look after, so from starting a family to retiring, mental health, menopause, divorce, long-term sick, carers leave, all of the stuff that happens in our working career from, the moment we start to the moment we retire, all of those life events happen during our career, but they are badly managed by organizations. And in fact, most of those life events are perceived to be career limiting. Organizations don't know about them until the very last minute. Employees don't feel safe talking about them and raising it. And so there was no point us putting it into their existing systems because there's information there on the internet that people don't access anyway. And it's because we don't have psychologically safe environments in the workplace, as much as organizations say that they do, we really don't feel safe when these things are happening. And so what we've done is created a solution that sits outside. It is purely employee led, it's employee centric. Organizations put us in. They have their own branded platform, they can put their own content on there, but it's really just for the employees. All of the data is anonymized, so the employers do know what's happening, but they don't know with who. So they do get insights into what's happening with their people. But what we offer is what we call journeys. So they're email communication flows that employees sign up to. They put in their personal dates and it delivers information to me based on my personal date and delivered to me at the time I need to know it. So when you're going through something for the first time, and baby, infertility, divorce, heading into menopause, you don't know what you don't know, so you can't just go, oh, just Google it, because you don't really know what you're Googling.
Mm,
So we
mm.
deliver the information at the point people need to know it, or they need to be thinking about it. Um, and if employees want to add in their manager, that they can. So, there is a flow that holds the hand of the manager, but it's really about how do we guide employees through these inevitable life events that's going to happen to us with compassion, simplicity, and really opening up their knowledge base in terms of what do I need to think about, what do I need to do, but in real time.
I love it so much because you're so right, right? There is no way to separate our home life and our work life. Well, it doesn't matter if you're an employee, it doesn't matter if you're a business owner. The two are, as much as we say work-life balance and separation and all of this stuff, there is no way that when you walk in the door at work, you leave everything that's happened to you behind. It is stuck in your brain and you're not getting rid of it.
Yeah. And these are just phases. Like I've
Mm.
been through lots of little things. I can tick a lot of these boxes and they are just a phase and you do come through it. And employees need to be a lot more compassionate and human in the way that they manage their humans,
Mm.
because without people, we don't have companies.
Exactly. So, where did this come from? How did you get into developing a software platform, tech platform, mobile app for HR employees?
So it's because I'm non-tech, like I really yeah, just non-technical at all. Um, on my background's recruitment for
Mhm.
my sins. And when I was in my recruitment company, when I got pregnant, I'd previously had a miscarriage. The employer didn't know I'd kept it all inside. When I got pregnant, I was working one day a week from home. And they were like, no, you can't do that anymore. You have to be in the office. We're going to make you work these extended hours. They didn't even know that I was the first person in the office. Anyway, so that it was basically, I had this experience of pregnancy discrimination. I was like, wow, when I come back, and they don't even know it's been like an 18-month journey. When I come
Mm,
back, I'm never going to be able to work 4 days. I'd made that clear. And I was like, there's just no option for me to stay. It was really, had become a very horrible environment. So I left. I was
mm,
4 months pregnant. This was 10 plus years ago. You can't really get a job when you're 4 months pregnant and you're showing. So I just started career coaching women. And the only women that came to me were women either on maternity leave, as it was called then, or they'd
wow.
returned. And they all had the same story. No one's spoken to me. Um, no one's been in contact. The transition back has been horrible. I want to find an employer who cares. I was like, this is crazy. These are
Mm,
professional women on the upward trajectory of their career. They want to work, but we have to keep the human race going, which means we have to have babies.
mm.
And in the world we live in, families need two people working most of the time. So I was like, how can I just help companies look after at the time it was just women, look after their women better, keep the manager connected to the person on their terms, keep them
Mm,
informed about what's going on, because they were like, I've come back, my manager's changed, I'm in a different team, the office is changed, all of this stuff. It's just basics. And so we started out, but well, actually back 10 years ago, I didn't know how to do it, so I just held on to this thought process, and for 4 years I just coached women. It just was the same message. And then in 2018, I came across an accelerator, which I didn't even know they existed, a technology accelerator that took non-tech founders and serviette napkin stage ideas. So I was like, okay, let's go. And by this point, we had marriage equality. And I was like, we'd need to include all parents. So,
mm,
we actually went to market. I went through the accelerator. We went to market with the first fully gender neutral parental leave journey that just spoke to parents on the basis that we need to get more of dads taking leave to open the door for more women to return to
mm.
work. We need to change the narrative. We need to change the stereotype on all of that stuff that we all know. So we did that, and that was our first little MVP, which was just emails going out. So we now have a completely different platform, but that's how we started.
That's so cool because I think people do get caught up in the tech. They're like, I've got to have a mobile app, or I've got to have a piece of software, or I've got to have an AI algorithm to solve a problem. But, there's so many different ways that you can actually test solving problems first. And I love the idea of emails. Like, that's just, and it's also tech that people understand. It's low barrier to entry, getting people to give you their email address versus signing up to an app or downloading something. Actually, when you're first starting out and trying to get that initial user feedback is such a brilliant idea. I love it.
Well, you have to go to where your customers are. So we started off just with parental leave,
Mm,
and we launched 6 months before we went into our first lockdown. Really bad timing. But since then,
Oh.
we've now become a solution for every single life event. So we now have a point where there are 5 generations in the workplace for the first time in history.
Mhm,
If we're trying to talk to people that are going into retirement, we still have to have something that relates to them, as well as maybe a 25-year-old that's thinking about having their first baby.
mm,
So we needed something that cut across generations. And the other thing that sort of came up when you were talking then, um, you're taught when you go through an accelerator to do things like concierging. So when I was on the accelerator to test the market, um, so for example, I was just using MailChimp. So within the accelerator, I got a couple of clients, and we still have one of those clients. Fujifilm is still with us to this
wow.
day. And I started off just writing each night a MailChimp email and sending it out to the people that we were testing with to see, do they open the email? Do they engage with the content? Do they want the content to live this way? Is it helping them? So you're testing, and that's called sort of concierging. You're doing everything yourself to test your concept. So
Mm,
there's, a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, which I think a lot of startups, and certainly tech startups, are told to read. And it's that concept: iterate, learn, do something really basic. And I know before I stepped into Triiyo, I had this other sort of business called Mama Hub, and I wanted to work with mums returning to work, which was my interim between recruitment and Triiyo. And I barely got anything out into the world because it was never perfect enough.
Mm, yeah.
I was crippled with this thought that it can't go out until it is perfect and I'm going to be judged. And I felt so vulnerable pressing go on the first website. And then I went into this accelerate. So I basically almost made no money because it was
Mm,
never good enough to release to the public. And it's like you're doing people a disservice because you can't help anyone if they don't know if you exist and you don't even have anything out there. And then it was flipped when I went into the accelerator. Because don't know how to build tech, I had to follow.
mm,
That's when they're like, no, you don't ever build anything until you know the like you bit by bit, are they going to open an email? Because if people don't open emails, then my whole business idea's gone. You'd have to iterate, right? So you do all the bits, like little bits, bit by bits. And then you just start building. And we're now in a point now where we've got 9 journeys. We want to bring more on. And we've got actually today another account management meeting with Fujifilm to see where are we? Where is the data? Who signed up? What journeys are they on? Because until we know that, I
mm,
don't know what more expert partners do I need to bring on the platform? What more content do I need to bring? Do they engage with that AI algorithm, our AI companion? Because we've now got Amy, we've got AI. So do they what's being used, what's not? And we put community channels on the platform. So at one point in the past, we did a piece of research and people were like, I want to have a community. I want to find other people in the workplace that are on the same journey as me. We're working hybrid distributed. Some companies are fully remote. How do I find the other people that say having a baby? So we put community channels on there, and no one dead, absolutely tumbleweed. No one used them.
wow, really?
Yeah, we invested all this time and money because we did this piece of research, and then we left it on there, and we then got a community manager going in and trying to create engagement. Absolute zero,
Wow.
nothing. And it's like, wow, you really, this is where you have to constantly iterate, learn, do little bits to test it before investing fully. Otherwise, and we have wasted a lot of time and money still, even knowing that, doing things because you will ask. And what I now know is you don't always react on, a handful of people's requests, because you'll end up building a ton of stuff that only a few people want. Wait until you've got 10, 20 requests of the same thing, and then you go and build, and then you build your MVP to test that within
Mm.
a bigger product.
Oh my God, you're just triggering me hardcore here. So I just did a speech at a women's leadership conference last week and just telling my life story. And and it's just flashbacking right now because before we got to Scrunch, the influencer marketing platform, I think there was like 3 or 4 iterations of what we were trying to build. Like we were trying to build a 3D virtual model for fashion, a fashion discovery platform, an inventory management platform, a like social media monitoring tool. Like we did 4 huge builds, and
Yeah.
we burned through my house deposit. We burned through credit cards, personal loans. We then had to go out capital raising. Like I took so long to learn that lesson. I'm just like, if we can punctuate this with do things as lo-fi as you can to see if people will buy it first. Like, yeah, seriously,
Yeah,
that
and
is
take
the
people
biggest
on the
lesson.
journey. Like, go to market
Yeah.
and say, this is our beta, this
Yeah.
is our pre-launch. You're in as a pilot, pre-launch, early adopter. Like, it's not going to be perfect, but people love that. They get
Yeah.
to be involved. Like I say, Fujifilm are still with us today from when I was on the accelerator in 2018. I mean, and it has taken me years to build this damn thing, and everything, taken everything from me. Um,
Mm.
but it's and there's one other thing, like there's called a lean canvas. Do you use that?
Oh,
It's like
I have before. Yeah, definitely.
just at the beginning, that's a great way for people to get down their ideas in a really,
Mm,
really simple format. That was something else that we were told to use. But go lean, and there's so much open source software. Like you can build, and with ChatGPT now, you can actually code off that. I don't do any of that, but I know you can. So
yeah.
and there is open source software which is basically very cheap, open source, anyone can use it, very simple to use. Like there's an app called Bubble App, which is apparently very, very simple way of creating apps.
Wow.
Um, you can wrap websites, basically web platforms, and kind of wrap it into an app these days as well. There's so much that can be done super cheap just in this
Mm,
market. You don't need to go out raising millions of dollars
yeah.
and have
Or spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars on developers, please. Public service announcement.
and if anyone wants an amazing dev team, I have been through four. I've been through three onshore CTOs, and I now have a team which I absolutely trust. They only work with startups, so I'm happy to give
Oh
anyone
my
the
God.
details because it has cost me everything to get to that point of a stable dev team.
Oh my God. It's interesting. It happens so much in tech. It blows my mind. All of the women that I've had on this podcast talking about their tech platforms have been through the exact same experience. I've been through the same experience, just finding developers who are actually good at what they do and can do what they say they're going to do and actually deliver on it is a lot harder than you would think it would be.
Yeah, and are not full of ego that will build
Mm,
it as a startup. Like the found,
mm,
you need solid foundations, but you're constantly iterating and tech constantly iterates. So
yes.
you don't need to build a platform that I need to go into Westpac with when
Mm,
we are, day zero.
yeah.
Like, but when you're going into Westpac, build something then. Like that's a good
Mhm,
problem to have further down the line, but build what you
mhm.
need today. Oh my God, as a non-tech founder, it is, and you have to trust because I have no other way of
Well, it's not
seeing
like hiring a
it.
marketing person, where you go, oh, okay, they can't do copy and the images look like shit, so you're fired. Like it
Yeah,
takes you months and months before you realize that you're being
I can't read
screwed.
code and I don't know. And they're telling me
Yeah.
this is the architecture we need to have. And I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you if it was right or wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it really sucks to be honest. So I don't know how else to sugarcoat that. So how have you financed the business to date? So I know a lot of tech startups go through capital raises, some do bootstrapping. Like, how have you gotten to where you're at now?
So when I went through the accelerator, the first build was paid for by the accelerator and they take shares. Um,
Cool.
you then have a very small raise of 38,000 coming out of that.
Yeah.
I self-financed, just bootstrapped, didn't go out much, literally joked that my son lived on tins of baked beans and pasta. Luckily, he just likes pasta and bread. But it was very lean, lived very, very lean. And then I did do a raise. I did a raise through COVID
Mhm.
twice. So we raised about 1.3 million.
Wow.
Um, that was a really hard, traumatic experience.
Did
Uh,
you go through like what level? Angel investors, VCs, what high net worths? Where'd you go?
so we had a couple of VCs on our cap table already through the accelerator. So they did
Gotcha.
come in.
Cool.
And then I went from friends and family, so 5 grand checks, all the way through to high net worths, and then we had the VCs there.
Yeah.
Um, as a solo founder, you're taken off building your business and you're taken off selling.
Yeah.
So I would do things differently again if I had my time again. Um,
Mhm.
Solo female founders get 0.6% of the pie.
Yeah.
So I spent hours, like months and months. I spoke to hundreds of investors, funds, VCs. Um, a lot of it is a waste of time. I've been to pitch events, I've been to Singapore pitching. Um, it definitely, it's a real catch 22. So it delays the build you building your business because
Yeah.
it takes months to raise money.
Yeah.
Um, but you can then do, you know, more stuff. But what is the opportunity cost and the loss of that time? And
Yes.
what reporting, about 30% of your time is taken up by reporting back it to investors. I would have delayed, I would, if I had my time again, if I could find a co-founder as a tech person
Mhm.
who's tech, I would do that.
Yeah.
100% of nothing is nothing. I am very, very open, and I was always open, just could never find the
Mm.
right person. Finding a co-founder is not easy either.
No.
Bootstrapping to a point where have some revenue, um, makes you a lot more appealing to investors. And I was raising as pre-seed. And when
Mm.
you look at who will invest at sort of pre-seed, seed, series A, and so forth, the pre-seed market is really, really small in Australia.
Yeah. I
Very,
reckon it's worse now as well. Like
oh
post COVID, investors want profitable businesses.
yeah, they say like give me $1 million turnover,
Yeah.
ARR, and it's like, well, yeah, it's super, super hard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a little flat in the UK that I sold. I brought that money over, burnt through that. I've worked part-time on the side to keep a roof over my head.
Mm.
Um, I've had tech people completely screw me. They are $1,000 a day. So when we raised the money, we burnt through it very, very quickly,
Mm.
rebuilding platforms. And that's what I'm saying. Like, do the minimum amount that you can to test, iterate, but never take your eyes off sales. And I had to take my eyes off sales because I was raising funds. And the other thing is no one ever sells your business as well as you do. So, I did bring in somebody else to run sales, and she's lovely. She was great at top of the funnel, didn't close the deal
Mm.
because actually no one knows your business the way you do. But no one else can really raise money for your business the way that the founder can. So you are pulled into all of these different places, and it's super hard.
It is so hard. It is like, I mean, just fucking kudos to you for being here after all of that. It is so hard. And you're so spot on with that experience. That's exactly what I went through. And I'm a salesperson by trade. So I actually like sales, but like to be able to keep it up whilst capital raising, which everyone says you have to, but it's like, how do you do that? There is only so many hours in a day, and your experience was the same as mine. Hundreds of investor conversations to get a handful, investing. That's every waking moment of that's more than a full-time job.
Yeah, it is ruthless. And then
Mm.
you've also got to look after your people. You've got to do your
Yeah.
project. You've got to be on your
Oh yeah.
calls. You've got to know what the hell is going on everywhere else.
Yeah.
You're bringing in partners, you're bringing in experts, you're putting content
Yeah.
on back. You keep trying to keep your customers happy that are on the platform.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally don't sleep, which is
Yeah.
what I got to the point I did to last year,
Mm.
which was not literally not being able to speak. So
So,
it's
so talk to me about that. Talk to me about where you got to.
so we have, oh my God, I mean, the last 4 years, it's, you know, a stupid time to try and start a business, right? Especially when you're selling to HR and HR are like, no, I can't talk to you anymore. Uh,
Mm.
God, I went through three different tech people who, weren't great, took a lot of money. Um, we tried to re-raise again, like tried to do a bridge round, it's called. Um, last year, beginning of last year, because the market has been since COVID just super challenging.
Mm,
Its heads were still being cut in terms of redundancies, budgets were super tight. People know they need to look after their people. Uh,
mm,
so in our business, we were like, how do we find the painkiller versus the vitamin?
yeah.
And looking after your people. So pre-COVID, we sold even to like Citibank, we sold to Citibank and it was on 2 meetings and they were done. It
Mm,
was a completely different experience. Post-COVID, looking after your people has become a nice to have. Um,
mm,
except last year, the new psychosocial risk legislation came in place, which is basically the shitty stick of the government saying, we cannot, and this is the HR opinion of why this has come in, we can't look after and fix the mental health of the nation. Post
yeah.
COVID, it is in tatters, and
Mm,
therefore employers, you now have a duty of care that you have to take, create psychologically safe workplaces, and that includes the mental safety of your people. So we had this sort of this painkiller, this shitty stick that came out. So we started hooking on that. And it is definitely, it is definitely working, but the sales cycle has gone from 2 to 3 months peak post COVID to over 12 months. So
wow.
it's really long. So I looked to raise some money at the beginning of last year, so that I could keep the teams on and so forth. And it didn't happen.
Mm,
We were set up to bring money in, and I needed to find another 100,000 to unlock this other money.
yeah.
And I just couldn't find that 100,000.
Yeah.
I was literally in Singapore pitching everywhere. And then we lost, as I said, the government client. We lost two
Mm,
government clients when they went from Liberal to Labour.
mm,
The Labour didn't renew the budget, and so we lost a lot of money through the government contract falling through.
yeah.
And I will say, as with a hat on, large companies, governments, they are, and I was told this in the accelerator, they're startup killers. They
Yeah.
take so much time and all of your capacity and resources, which they had done.
Yeah.
um, and then you lose them, or one person says no and it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's another learn, like it sounded great, and if we had won and if we'd won the second year, it would have been awesome. But
Mm,
just like that, it was gone. We'd spent 3 months passing a pen test for them, which is their new cyber security stuff, which we did, cost
mm,
us a lot of money. But anyway, the government fell through, the investor pulled out, the rest, it was like a domino effect, the rest went
wow.
down. So we had to start making redundancies. And it was just all horrible. It was just all horrible. It was sort of 4 years in after COVID, after whatever you want to call it, a recession, whatever is going on.
Mm,
And the pressure of having employees is huge. I'm a single mum as well. There is only me that can keep a roof over my son's head. So it all just got too much. And I wasn't suicidal, and I have been in a very young age, well, in my early 20s in that space. And I knew I wasn't there, but
mm,
I knew that things weren't working. Like I was thinking and I couldn't speak. So
mm,
there was this complete disconnect or separation happening. And so I took myself off for a week, completely to a retreat. Um, and there was no tech. It was the first time I didn't open my laptop since 2018 for a week.
wow.
Like I don't think I'd taken a weekend off without looking at my laptop.
Mm,
Um, and I just went away. And during that time, I realized that health is wealth. Without health, we have nothing. Without health, I don't have me, my son. I can't be a good mum. I can't run a business. I can't do any of the stuff that I actually want to do in the world if I'm not well. So I
mm,
have really shifted the way I work since then. Um, I've create lots of time and space for me, meditation every single day, and a ton of other stuff which we've spoken about, like breath work. Um, and it's going inwards is really the secret I think to opening up opportunities beyond that you can even imagine. Like the moment we uncage what we think we're creating, we give it wings, and it has an energy of itself where that it can find its flow and its frequency in the world. You know, we've
Mhm.
birthed something when we birth a business, and that has its own energy signature, and we often think it has to work like this and it is only going to work like this. We put this cage around it and go, well, this is how you're going to exist in the world. And actually, the moment we can uncage something, it can spread its wings and it can fly and it can find the frequency that it needs to exist if we can just give it that. I guess it's like,
Nice.
yeah, space. And like, what we do with our own kids, you let them, at some point they're gonna, you know,
Yeah.
fly. So I feel it's like that for businesses too.
I just love it because, we said this before we hit record. I started out by saying, we all say, oh, we're busy, rah, rah, rah. But I was like, I feel like at the moment with everyone being so a bit overwhelmed, the market being a bit rubbish. I'm very guilty of being the one also saying and doing more. I was going, oh well, if it's not working like this, I got to find more things to do, like try harder, rah, 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 figure it out. And I love that you just said, maybe there's another way. Perhaps it is in the moments of rest and recuperation and healing that the better ideas come, the opportunities open up. We do open up space for, bigger things. And it was funny because as, we had that brief conversation before we started recording. And as you were just saying it then, it struck me. I was watching a YouTube video yesterday, as you do, and it was around so it was Neil, what's his name? I think it's Neil Patel. Oh no, he's the marketing guy. And the guy that teaches you about finances, and he's just had a Netflix series, and now I can't remember his name. Anyway, he was talking about dreaming bigger. And it was so interesting because I just had that kind of on while I was having a cup of coffee, trying to wake up, and the ideas are percolating. And I was like, oh, maybe I haven't been thinking big enough for, what I want Spark to be. And I just had like this download of ideas, and I was like, oh my God. And I got so excited. And, and it's interesting, isn't it? That I've been like, oh, I've got to work harder. I've got to do more. I've got to show up more. And then I was like in the moment of just sitting, relaxing, having a cup of coffee, going, and giving myself permission to think a little bigger, like the actual interesting ideas started to flow through.
Yeah. We don't know what the universe has in plan for us. And by limiting it to our own perception
Mm,
is just doing it a disservice. Like,
yeah.
unravel it. Like, what are the possibilities beyond my wildest dreams?
Yeah.
Like I'd like to help millions of people in the workplace. I have no idea how that's going to happen. And I previously was like, well, it has to be like this and it's going to be like this. And it's like,
Mm,
actually, I don't know, maybe there's a million other ways. I
yeah.
don't know. Let's just unbox it and go, what is possible?
Mm,
Because we live in a limitless universe that everything is possible, and we can't be expected to know every solution and way forward. So let's just take inspired action. So that is one thing I would say definitely helps, is if you get this spark and go, I feel like I need to connect with this person on LinkedIn, or I need to go to this event. Don't know why, or it doesn't make sense, or I'll just, step out my comfort zone and just make an introduction, or whatever it is, do it. If
yeah.
in the moment there is a spark, take that inspired action, and something always trickles through. And it's, whenever I go to an event, I would say just one person, just have one person make connection with one person and say yes to something, or agree to a meeting or a podcast or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then it's just a ripple effect, and it happens. But inspired action, I think, is everything. That for me is our spirit, our guides telling, like, nudging us along the path.
Totally. And I just love what you said around we do limit things to our own perception. It reminds me, totally getting off track, but I remember when we were pricing so my other business, Scrunch, the influencer marketing platform, I remember the girls in the office were like, "Oh no, that's way too expensive." And it's the first time I kind of got to realize, oh, they're limited by their bank account, but our customer is someone who has a company credit card, like, and I love you've translated that into, we limit our businesses by what we perceive as reality, when in actual fact, we don't know what the universe has in store for us. We don't know the infinite possibilities or the infinite potential that our business has.
Yeah, yeah. And until we take the cage away, we can't
Mm,
attract in other things, because if it doesn't align with what we originally had in the cage, like only this fits into this, and anything outside of that is not welcome. It's like, well, let's take the cage away, because actually everything is welcome if it helps me get to what my end goal is and your North Star. So just always keep your North Star in
yes.
mind. And mine is I want to help millions of people navigate life events at work. So how can that happen? Maybe it isn't going to end up Triiyo looking the way it is right now, but that's okay if I get
Mm.
to that end goal.
Oh my God. I love it. Rebecca, you are absolutely incredible. This was just such an amazing conversation. I appreciate you so much. Let's wrap up by giving our beautiful Spark community one last piece of advice. So, reflecting on your time in business, what would be a piece of advice that you would give other women on their business journey?
Trust in yourself, just start. It's never going to be perfect. So just birth something into the world and go from there.
Ah, you are amazing. Thank you so much for your time today.
Having me, it's been so lovely talking to you, Danny. Thank you.